Hey guys, Otaku here, back with another competitive Yu-Gi-Oh video. So it's ban list season. That's right, it is the beginning of March, and we have gone about 3-ish months since the last ban list. A lot of us are kind of expecting one at the end of March, early April, and let's just kind of talk about what to expect. So as much as I hate to admit it, we are kind of in a tier 0 format. The only deck we really see in feature matches from YCSs is Snake Eyes and Fire Kings, because they're just kind of everywhere. And because of this, there's not really a lot of decks that are getting to shine at the moment. You're either playing Snake Eye Fire King or pure Snake Eye, or you're playing a deck that can compete with it. Which, as we know, there's not a lot of decks right now that can compete with Fire King Snake Eye or pure Snake Eye. But then there is also, on the other hand, the Snake Eye cards are still very new. Agov came out at the end of last year. Granted, we are like 3 months into the new year, but Agov is still very new. And because of that, the likelihood of some of these cards getting hit is kind of unlikely. We're probably going to see very much what happened with Tearlaments, where they kind of gave Tearlaments 3 or 4 slaps on the wrist until they finally butchered the deck. But at the same time, they butchered the deck because Kashtira came out, and they wanted everyone to buy the new Kashtira deck. So with this list, I'm going to kind of be talking about things that we might possibly see on the list, but we're going to also talk about some stuff that we should see on the list, but the chances of seeing it on the list aren't always high. And then, of course, we'll talk about some cards that I think should come off the list because they won't either make a big impact or they've just been so power crept that they will do something, but they won't be as impactful as they were back when they got banned or limited or whatever. However, before we do go over the list, there are a lot of new faces that are viewing the channel, and I appreciate all of you. But if you do like competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content and you're not already subscribed, consider doing it. At the current moment, about 96% of the people who watch my videos are not even subscribed to the channel. So if you're not already and you like the content I'm providing, consider dropping a like and even subscribing, but also hit that bell button so you get notifications when future videos come out. But with that, let's just jump right into it. So I do want to leave the Snake Eye stuff for last because I think that's obviously the biggest attraction and the biggest topic that we have to talk about today. So let's talk about some of the other decks or cards that could get hit as kind of like collateral damage to slapping Snake Eye on the wrist, or even just decks that are doing things that just are not healthy for the game state of Yu-Gi-Oh! And nothing really screams an unhealthy game state than floodgates and locks. Now, I do plan on making a video on floodgates and locks and really just going in depth talking about them, but overall, I think they just kind of need to go away. So to start, we're going to talk about the floodgates, summon limit, anti-spell fragrance, and skill drain. These were the ones that dodged the last ban list, and all of the floodgates that did get hit get put to 1, and I think that is a step in the correct direction. I by no means think that the floodgates need to get banned, but I think putting them to 1 so there's less incentive to play them is definitely a good move. So with that, I'm going to put summon limit, anti-spell fragrance, and skill drain all in the limited category. Like I said, I just personally feel that these create a very unhealthy game state in Yu-Gi-Oh! No one really likes getting this stuff flipped on them, and summon limit and anti-spell fragrance being the two biggest ones that are in the format currently. And then as for locks, I think that locks need to get banned. Calamity Lock is not really that prevalent right now because Centurion is not performing very well currently until its upcoming support comes out, but overall, I just don't think a card that says you cannot do anything and just hits the off switch is not a very fun card to get hit with. And then Gimmick Puppet Lock, branded, is excelling very well in the format because at the current moment, if you can't compete with Snake Eye, just stop them from playing the game. But as someone who personally plays branded a lot, but also has played against branded, it's just not a good feeling to get hit with the Gimmick Puppet and knowing that you just really can't play, and then your opponent's going to turn around and hit you with the Crackback OTK. So with that, I think that these two cards really just need to get banned, and overall, I think the decks that play them just need to move to other strategies. Obviously, a lot of people think that branded needs to just ban Sanctifier instead of the Gimmick Puppet, because with no Sanctifier, they cannot summon Gimmick Puppet, nor can they summon any other locks that are available. However, I think stuff like Jaugen or the Ido lock are a lot less prevalent because they can be outed. Next, we're going to talk about Dimension Shifter. I still hate this card. I know Dimension Shifter is like the go-to hand trap right now. If you can play it, you're going to play it to take care of Snake Eyes, but I just hate this card. Even if I'm playing a deck that can play through Shifter, I hate this card. I hope to see it get banned. Will we see it get banned? Unlikely, but I want to see it get banned. But realistically, if it's even on the Forbidden Limited list, I foresee it going to 2. This is a hit that Master Duel has been doing for a while with Dimension Shifter being at 2. I just don't think it's going to really do anything because it being at 3 is already either you see it or you don't. It being at 2 is either you see it or you don't. SP Little Knight, this is a card that we kind of saw change power creep as we know it. This card is just incredibly broken and just is really hard to deal with when it hits the board. Pretty much to the point where decks have gotten to the point where they're revolving their non-engine to deal with this card if it gets summoned on them. And overall, I just think this card is not a very fun card to play against. I personally don't think we're going to see it on the Forbidden Limited list, but if we did, for whatever reason, I could see them putting it to 1, not banned, 1. The reason being is that decks are running 2 at times if they can afford it, but putting it at 1 just kind of makes everyone do what most people are already doing, which is playing it at 1. And just makes it so you don't have to sink $280 something to have 2 copies. Like I said, I don't entirely foresee seeing this on the Forbidden Limited list. I would be surprised if it did, but if it did for whatever reason, I could see them putting it to 1, kind of like Crystron Halka before he got banned. Psyframe Gear Gamma, I just think needs to kind of come back. I think we can put him to 2 to start and then bring him to 3, although I think he just needs to come to 3. I just don't think he's doing anything at 1, and overall, people are playing Delta anyways at the moment, and I just don't think Gamma's going to do anything in this current format because the cards you want to stop are primarily spell cards. Heavy Storm, I think it's about time we bring this card to 1. A lot of the heavy hitters from like DM era are coming to 1 and then slowly coming to 3. Now, obviously, I do understand that Heavy Storm has the ability to destroy your own back row, which can, of course, be very advantageous at times, but the OCG has been running it at 1 for the longest time, and they primarily run it in the side deck. However, I am a bit of a newer player where I've only been playing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Since the POT format, so if there is a strategy that this could be entirely busted in, I can understand why a lot of you in the comments will tell me I'm fucking crazy for this card to come back to 1. Infernity Launcher is a card that I believe they put from 1 to 2 in the last ban list. Just bring it to 3. Infernities aren't going to see any success anytime soon. I absolutely love the deck. I think it's a really fun deck to play, but we are not in a format by any means that you can get away with not running any cards in your hand. Naturia Sacred Tree, I still am on the firm belief that it was the wrong card to hit Runic Naturia. I think there was a handful of other cards they could have hit that didn't just completely make the deck unplayable. I think it needs to come back to 2. I do understand it is not a once per turn, which is the reason that it probably was hit, but I think putting it to 2 is a very happy middle ground, so that way it's not being used 3 times a turn, but still has wiggle room for Naturia Runic to actually be playable again. Tidal, I think it's time to go to 1. Tidal is the last Dragon Ruler that's currently on the Forbidden list, and all the other ones are at 1, except for Tempest, which I believe is at 3 currently. I do understand that Tidal has the ability to be played in certain decks to make him a lot more broken than the other ones. I just think that it's time for Tidal to come out. Let's douse these fucking flames that is known as the Year of Fire. Back to talking about Runic, I think Runic Tip needs to get put to 1. Runic is a very powerful deck. I do understand it's not thriving a whole lot currently because it just cannot keep up with Fire Kings, but I think Runic Tip is just way too powerful of a card and is just free. And overall, I think it just needs to get put to 1. Same goes for Kashtira Birth. Kashtira actually has been doing good things in this current format. It's one of the few decks that can actually compete with the Fire Kings and the Snake Eyes, and a lot of it I think comes down to the fact that Kashtira Birth is just a literally custom card and just is free. This card is absolutely infuriating, and overall, if your opponent has Birth, they're probably going to win. You could make the argument that you could put this to 2. I think if for whatever reason we saw this on the Forbidden Limited list, this would be put to 1. Because it's just, again, it's a free card and it's just incredibly broken. Called by the Grave. I've been preaching this one for a very, very long time. I think Called by the Grave needs to be brought to 2. Master Duel has been running this card at 2 for God knows how long now, and it's been performing very well because Master Duel, being a best of 1 format, is primarily a hand trap heavy format at all times. Crossout Designator has been seeing a lot of success this format because everyone is running a bajillion hand traps and they're all running the same shit. So obviously it's good for the mirror match for Snake Eye, Fire King, and etc., but it's very good for a lot of decks that get blown out by too many hand traps. So let's just bring Called By back to 2, and it's just even more defense for decks that really don't want to see that Ash Blossom or that Dimension Shifter. Especially the fact that Called By is literally the only counter to Dimension Shifter if you don't run Dimension Shifter in your deck as it is. Wind Up Zenmains, I think, needs to come to 1. Honestly, there's a good chance this could just come back to 3 as it is, but this card is long overdue. I think this is the new Harp Horror, where it's just on the list longer than it needs to be. I do understand this card was really crazy in the format when it was out, but I just don't foresee Windups doing a whole lot of good stuff, and I do know that a rank 3 deck was just released in Agov, and it's a really good deck. I think goblins are really good, and I think Wind Up could make it an even better deck. AFD, I think, can come to 3. Ancient Fairy Dragon was brought to 1 after its errata. It came out with its new errata in Maze of Memories, and just overall hasn't made a huge impact on the meta. This card does get played in certain decks like ABC, and it does help those decks, but I don't foresee this card being at 2 or 3, making it any more breaking than it ever was. And then Thunder Dragon Colossus. Thunder Dragon Colossus is the real last hit on the Forbidden Limited list from TOS format, and I do foresee this card coming back. Like I just said, Colossus is the last hit from TOS format. We do see Sky Striker Engage back to 2. Good chance it could come to 3. We see Gazelle back in action. We see plenty of other cards like Harp Horror back in action. So I do think that Colossus is the next step in the right direction. Now, I do understand out of all of those cards, Colossus is arguably the more powerful of the choices because it does have the ability to essentially be a micro floodgate, but I just think that this card will end up making its return sooner or later. And we've made it close to the end of the video. Let's talk Fire. So like I said, there is a good chance that Fire will end up getting a hit, but I do think that it is going to be a slap on the wrist, not an intentional direct hit that's going to kill the deck. But I do have Original and Snake Eye Ash on here to more talk about if they do get a direct hit, what would be the best outcome. And to start, we're going to talk about Original Sinful Spoils. I know a lot of people have been saying ban Wanted, ban Original. Really, most of the people that are complaining and making ban list predictions are saying that you just need to butcher Snake Eye. They're not going to do that because they have more Snake Eye stuff coming out in Legacy Destruction. They're not going to kill Snake Eye. However, that being said, if they do a direct hit on Snake Eye, it's going to be because the new stuff can help the deck, but they want you to buy the new stuff, so they want to kind of mitigate what Snake Eye is currently doing as it is. So that being said, I think if they are going to do a direct hit on Fire King, I think it's going to be Original Sinful Spoils getting hit to 1. This card is just way too powerful. It gets you access to the level 1 fires like Jet Synchron or a Snake Eye Ash or just any of the Snake Eye monsters really. Or even just Ponix. This card is just incredibly powerful, and also it just gives Witch more utility by being able to set it from the deck, other than Wanted, of course. Just overall, if you even open this card, it's just never a bad thing, and also its graveyard effect plus the Wanted graveyard effect, it's just a lot of recursion. But as I said, there is a good chance that it is not the only possible hit. The other possible hit is Snake Eye Ash getting put to 1. This card is just a 1-card combo. Literally, I did a locals just recently, and I played against a Fire King Snake Eye deck, and my opponent opened 4 hand traps and Snake Eye Ash. They prevented me from playing the game, summoned Ash, and OTK'd me. This card is just incredibly powerful, and I don't think banning it is the right play by any means, but I think putting it to 1 is definitely a must. But like I said, there's a good chance Snake Eye gets a slap on the wrist and does not actually get a direct hit this ban list. So if we are going to do slaps on the wrist, I do think that the Bonfire and World Dragon Zealantis are very good hits. World Dragon Zealantis, I think, just needs to get banned. I think this card is going to pay for the Fire King's sins. And overall, just this is the card that utilizes the OTK. The moment this card hits the board, it just banishes everything on the board, and then also it has its battle phase effect where if it's co-linked, it can pop up to the number of co-links that it has, and because you can place things in any zone, in any order in which you choose, this card will always have a co-link and be able to pop, and like I said, this is just heavily just encourages the OTK strategy that Fire King Snake Eye or just Snake Eye does. But at the same time, again, another slap on the wrist I think could be Bonfire. Bonfire being put to 1 I think is a very good possibility because it's literally just Rhoda. It's reinforcement of the army for Pyro monsters instead of warriors. It's literally just the same card but slightly changed, and because of that, I think it is a good chance that it gets put to 1 because, you know, Rhoda's at 1, so why wouldn't they put this to 1? But that's really it. That's all I got for you guys today. Like I said, since we're basically in a borderline tier 1 format, it's really only obvious what deck is going to get hit on the ban list, and it's not obvious what other decks could get hit on the ban list. So I kind of had to wing it for this one. I'm not overly confident in these predictions, some of which are just kind of based or hot takes, but I just really wanted to kind of get my opinion on what could possibly get hit or brought back, for instance. But definitely let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like, and if you're not already, definitely subscribe and hit that bell button for future competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content getting uploaded to this channel. And with that, I'll see you all in next week's video, because I will only be uploading one video this week because I am going to the Stone Mountain WCQ this weekend, as of recording this video, of course. If you're also going, don't be afraid to say hi, but with that, I'll see you all next week.